So looking at what's high, so let's have a look at sugar. Sugar sits, I think it's about 59. Wholemeal, no, let me get this right in my head. White. So your white wheat. So when I say white wheat, I'm talking about white bread, white pasta. It sits at 69. So it's higher than sugar. It's because of the amylopectin A. What about wholemeal? 72. How could that be? How could the wholemeal get the blood sugar level up higher than the white? Because it's not refined, it's got more amylopectin A in it. And it's the amylopectin A that causes that blood glucose high. And I had a lady do our program and she started to cry. It was in the lecture. I said, "Why are you crying?" She said, "I'm a diabetic." She said, "I was diagnosed 2 years ago." She said, "I do everything they tell me. I have wholemeal bread, wholemeal pasta, wholemeal everything." And she said, "And every 6 months I go back to the doctor and he puts me on more insulin." She said, "The lady down the road, she has lollies and cakes and biscuits and donuts. I don't do that," she said. She said, "You've just solved the puzzle." What's the definition of insanity? To do what you've always done and expect different results. She said, "Why don't nutritionists know what you're telling us?" Well, in Australia, they grow a lot of wheat. So they're not going to speak against wheat because they grow so much. And unfortunately, vested interests has their finger everywhere. Now, if you want to explore this a little bit more, there's a book called Wheat Belly. It's a bestseller by Dr. William Davis. And he gives the whole story of what they've done to the wheat. Yes?
What about brown sugar? This is white sugar, I believe.
Yes, yes. Well, it appears that brown sugar and raw sugar are coloured white sugar.
Okay.
And it is true that the brown sugar will have a little more minerals in it. But myself, I prefer to keep away. Yes?
And the other grains, like, okay, you've got the ancient grains, but then you've got the other common grains like rye and barley.
Yes.
When they are whole.
Yes, they have not been played with. They have not gone through the intensive crossbreeding.
But the amylopectin A, is that present?
The amylopectin A was created in the hybridization process. So it is something that's not usually there. Yeah?
Where would the original species of grain, like kamut and einkorn, where would they be on the scale?
They don't have the amylopectin A in them.
No.
So they're sitting more down at, they're probably halfway between amylopectin C and B. Oh, well, I haven't memorised everything on the glycemic index. You'd have to look at that. But the bananas are very high, but cherries are very low. So it's good to know the glycemic index with your diabetic people and show them that they can, instead of having bananas on their breakfast, they can have blueberries or cherries on their breakfast. And instead of having the white potato, they can have the sweet potato, because the sweet potato is quite low. Yeah?
So also for people with yeast infection,
Yeah.
they can eat low glycemic index
Yes.
food, and also
That's right.
fruits.
That's right. Low glycemic fruits. That's right. Yes.
So which kind of sweet can you use then? Agave?
So depend what sweet. Well, we use honey. We use maple syrup. We use palm sugar because palm sugar is or coconut sugar. It's the crystallized nectar from the palm flower. And in Australia, and I know also in America, where you buy sugars, you can get a packet of palm or coconut sugar, and it's a brown colour.
Yeah, agave sugar is not good at all. So I don't prefer to-
Yeah, there's opinions on agave sugar. Yeah, I personally have never used it.
Isn't it just a general principle of what is refined and what is not? I mean, the more refined the worse it is. It's just like
That's
the
right.
cayenne. No, sorry, the sugar, the white sugars are fine from the plant, and if you have the whole
Yes.
plant, it's like
Yeah.
Is
Yes.
there a nutritional book containing all these information?
You can Google glycemic index, and I've referred to Nutrition Almanac a few times. That is revived. I think they do a revived Nutrition Almanac about every, 8-10 years. But a friend of mine lent me his Nutrition Almanac from 1976, but there's really not much difference. Yeah?
So in this case, date syrup, what we here can buy.
Yeah, date syrup's date syrup's another one. You can make your own date syrup, by cooking your dates in water. That's incredibly sweet, so not great for the diabetic or the person with yeast or the person with cancer. So it depends on, that's why you look at the history and symptoms. Yes?
What about raisins and figs?
Your dates, raisins and figs are very high in the glycemic index. And of course for the average person that doesn't have a disease or sickness, they're fine. But we don't use dates or figs or raisins. See, your raisins we call sultanas. And our raisins are a bigger, from a bigger grape. Because most of the guests that come to our retreat are in this classification. They're either wanting to lose weight, or they're diabetic, or they have abuse problem, or a much smaller percentage are conquering cancer. So they all do much better with the low sweet. And so that's what. And I'm mindful of our cooks, that they're not having to cook different meals for different guests. So we basically do what everyone can eat. So if we do a dessert, and we usually do a dessert once a week, and we'll often do a frozen cheesecake, and you ladies who are cooks, maybe some of the men are cooks, I'm just used to my husband who can cook toast.